In a planet of Eternia is a castle called Grayskull, the only source of magic and the reason for Eternia's existence. The evil leader of the snake fortress Skeletor wanted the powers all to himself, but the only person that stood in his way is Prince Adam, who defends the power of the Castle Grayskull as an hero He-Man. The Guardians of the Realms are the only ones who knows the prince's secrets, plus the army of the Honorables who are committed in guarding the Castle Grayskull. The episode begins with He-Man riding to the Castle of Grayskull holding two prisoners with a rope called Clawful and Spikor. The sorceress, a guardian of Grayskull, shows up to collect the prisoners, but is really shocked when one of the prisoners reveals himself to be Skeletor in disguise. She manages to use her powers to restrain him, but realizes she only fell into a trap of Skeletor, as the person she taught to be He-Man is actually an illusion, performed by Skeletor's sidekick, Evil Lyn. Meanwhile, there is a happy moment at the Palace of Eternia, as Teela is being promoted by the king as the man-at-arms. Her father Duncan appears to be really proud of this moment, along with Orko and Klinger, who are revealed to be the guardians of the Grayskull, and are the only ones that knows Prince Adam's secret as He-Man, apart from his mother the Queen. Back at Castle of Grayskull, the sorceress activates a shield to prevent Skeletor and his army from getting inside, but Skeletor turned out to be one step ahead this time around after his many failures. Grayskull Castle was just merely a shell, as the real powers he has been looking for is underneath the castle. The sorceress, unable to fend against Skeletor and his army on her own, calls on He-Man's aid. Prince Adam informs the Guardians and the army of Skeletor about the attack, and they all prepare themselves to wage war. After the king leads all the people to safety, Prince Adam uses the opportunity to call upon the power of Grayskull to transform into He-Man, along with Klinger. As a battle between the Eternia heroic warriors and skeleton army begins, Duncan, while fighting Skeletor's sidekick Lyn, sends his daughter Teela under the Castle of Grayskull to prevent Skeletor from gaining access to Eternia magic and secrets. Skeletor is about to finish off Teela until He-Man finally arrives and engages in a fight with the villain while Lyn fights Teela. He-Man stabs Skeletor, but this was actually his plan all along, as his sword is the key to the Orb of Magic, and he has tricked him into using the sword to open it. The moment Skeletor is about to crack the orb, it turns out he and his sidekick wasn't moving anymore, and the sorceress shows up, revealing to have slowed down time which won't last long. She explains to He-Man and Teela that the orb Skeletor is about to crack is where the magic that created Eternia comes from. If he cracks it, the blast from it will destroy the universe, and everyone in it will die. He-Man suggests that he can use the Sword of Power to absorb the blast and save the universe. He knows a power with that much magic will kill him in the process, but he is ready to sacrifice himself to save thousands of lives. He-Man absorbs the blast by splitting the sword into two, and he and Skeletor died in the process. Evil Lyn escapes with the only thing remaining, the top of Skeletor's havoc staff. Back at the palace, Duncan narrates to the king how He-Man died while saving the world. As King Randor gives a small speech about how Eternia has lost a great champion, Queen Marlena cries out that they have actually lost their son. With everyone confused, Duncan had no choice but to reveal to everyone that Prince Adam is actually He-Man. Being so angry, the king strips Duncan of his title and banishes him from the palace from keeping this secret away from him. Teela, who has known Prince Adam her whole life, also felt betrayed by her father and everyone who lied to her. She resigns as a warrior of the king and leaves the palace as well. After a few years, we see two masked mercenaries entering a stinking cave with masks. After they found the artifact they were looking for, they are attacked by a thief called Stinkor, whom they manage to defeat. One of them unmasks herself to be Teela, along with her new friend called Andra. They survive by finding lost magical artifacts and returning it to their owners in exchange of a huge sum of gold. After returning the Glove of Globola to a priestess, we find out that since magic left Eternia, magical items are being stolen and are sold to the highest bidder. Teela and Andra are later met by an elderly woman called Mangistra, who hired them to retrieve an old goblet from the Snake Fortress in exchange of a large amount of gold in return. Teela and Andra sneaks inside the fortress and knocks out two guards, disguising themselves with their robes. There they come across Triclops, the new leader of the fortress since Skeletor's death. Triclops has been kidnapping villagers and forcing them to drink some kind of blood from the old goblet, which is what Teela and Andra are sent to retrieve. It turns out that whoever drinks blood from it are turned into half human and half robot. Triclops is forming an army to gain control of the universe. Teela volunteers to serve as a distraction for Andra to steal a goblet. She fights against the cyborgs of Triclops, and they are both able to escape with the goblet in their possession out of the fortress. Teela handed the cup to the old woman, and as promised, a bag of gold is given to them in return. The woman reveals she is going to pay twice the amount she gave them if they escort her in taking the goblet to the Grayskull castle. Teela feels really suspicious of this woman, and upon promising herself to never return to Grayskull, she refuses the woman's offer. Andra advises that if she is trying something evil at Grayskull, this is their chance to know what she's up to. Andra is so adamant on going because this could be a chance to do something heroic for the universe. Teela had no choice but to tag along with her friend. When they escorted the woman to Grayskull, they find the sorceress holding the last ember of magic left in Eternia. The old woman turns out to be using a disguising spell, revealing herself as the evil Lyn, and even the goblet itself is the head to the Havoc staff. Teela tries to attack her, but Kringer stops her. The sorceress explains that evil Lyn is now on their side. In fact, she has just saved her from dying, as the goblet she retrieved is what preserved her life. Upon fully trusting evil Lyn, the sorceress transfers the last ember of magic into her staff. Magic gave birth to Eternia, and the sword of power that was wielded by He-Man himself is what binds that magic to Eternia. But since the sword was destroyed, the magic disappeared along with it. Without magic, Eternia will continue to rot until it is destroyed. According to the sorceress, the only way to bring back magic is to call on the power of Grayskull, but in order to do so, they are going to need the power sword. She clears out the sword of power wasn't actually destroyed, but was only divided. All they need to do is to find the two halves and reforge the sword back to its original form. Teela and Andra are given the task by the sorceress in finding the halves of the sword, and evil Lyn decides to join them on this quest since the fate of the universe depends on it. But first they plan to visit Duncan, the only person they know with the skills of reforging the sword of power. Meanwhile, at a place in the forest, we see people lining up to catch a few drops of water from one of the last remaining magic fountains, the Font of Filigro. An old man stumbles and falls, but Duncan, the former man-at-arms, lends him a hand. Triclops suddenly shows up his followers to forcefully initiate the villagers as part of his robot army. Duncan leaps into action to protect the villagers from Triclops. Teela, Andra, and evil Lyn appear from nowhere to assist Duncan to fight against the cyborgs, but they are all still overpowered, until Beast Man, who had sworn loyalty to evil Lyn, shows up and single-handedly subdues Triclops and his men, scaring them away. Duncan uses the chance to apologize to Teela for keeping secrets away from her. He takes them to his residence, where Teela reunited with the palace mage, Orko, who appears to be really sick. Since there is no magic in Eternia, all the mages like Orko, and the evil Lyn has been affected really badly. Duncan refuses to help them forge the sword of power because his days of being a hero are over, and he now has a family he has responsibility of protecting, which is Orko and a tech robot he made by himself called Roboto. Orko is interested in joining Teela on this quest because going on adventures is what makes him happy, but they still need someone that can forge the sword. Roboto reveals to have Duncan memories, which means he also knows how to forge the sword of power. Since all his family are going, Duncan is left with no other choice but to join Teela on this quest. Teela tells him to instead go to Grayskull Castle and protect the sorceress in case Triclops attacks, since they now have Roboto to do the forging. The warriors cross the Crystal Sea on their way to Subternia, a place also known as Hell in this universe, and where the first half of the sword is. During their journey, they get attacked by Aquaticans led by Merman, a former follower of Skeletor. He is furious with evil Lyn because with her on the land and him on the sea without He-Man around, they could have gotten the chance to rule the universe together. Duncan arrives at the dying moment and defeated all his men, capturing Merman. They offer him a deal. He held up to the end of the bargain by taking them to Subternia, and in return, they decided to spare his life. Since his work on protecting the crew is over, Duncan decides to head to Grayskull as told to protect the sorceress, but he is so happy to finally get a hug from his daughter, who has now forgiven him from his wrongdoings. The gate of Subternia turned out to be locked. Evil Lyn takes out the head of Skeletor Havoc staff in her possession and places it on a headless skeleton beside the gate. The gate opens and Teela decided to get the first half of the sword by herself, but the rest insisted on joining her no matter the dangers. As the warriors begin their descent into the perils of Subternia, Teela notices a glowing figure and looked around only to find out that her friends had disappeared. Orko and evil Lyn find themselves in a place resembling Orko's homeworld, Trolla, while the rest, Beast Man, Andra, and Roboto find themselves in the middle of a wasteland with a zombie-like creature about to attack them. It is revealed that they are in a kind of illusion, but who must be causing it? The Scare Glow, the one causing the illusions, reveals himself in front of Teela. It turns out that the half of the sword she's looking for is in his possession, but promises to give it to her in exchange of feeding him her fears. Teela agrees to his proposal after he also assured the safety of her companions, and she is sent to the Well of Darkness where she is tasked to face her fear or risk being lost in the darkness forever. Teela wakes up only to find an illusion of He-Man waiting in the shadows. He charges towards her with his blade, and they both engage in an epic fight. Back to the wasteland, Andra, Roboto, and Beast-Man find themselves fighting a beast of their own. Andra fights with zombies, Beast-Man fights with fire bats. Roboto tells them that they are both fighting creatures known as the Shadow Beast, who feeds to their fear and helps them grow more powerful. Orko and Evil Lyn explores around the hallucination environment only to be attacked by a gigantic gorilla. Teela sees her fear gaining the upper hand as she is repeatedly being defeated by He-Man. After her while, she accepted that what she is afraid of is not being able to live up to her true destiny. This gives her access to the first half of the sword from Scare Glow, with his hallucination beginning to disappear rapidly. After each being able to conquer their fears, the magic separating the group disappears and they are all reunited with one another. Teela gives the first half of the sword to Evil Lyn, who uses it to unlock the door to Eternia, a place like heaven in this universe where the second half of the sword is. The group are shocked, however, when they are apprehended once again by Scare Glow. Orko uses his magic to hold off Scare Glow, giving the rest of them the chance to make it through the gates of Eternia. He had no choice. In order to stop Scare Glow for good, he sacrifices himself in the process. Teela is in sorrow for the death of Orko, her longtime friend. They are in a more bigger shock when Prince Adam appears in front of them. Eternia is a land of the dead, and it's just like heaven in this universe. That means only good people that died are found in this place. After they all said their farewell to Orko, Adam reveals to them that they are trapped in this place because whoever enter it cannot come out of it. Firstly, he gives Teela the second half of the power sword in his possession, and told her to come with him as he might have a way they can live the place. Roboto and the rest takes the two pieces of the sword to a spirit blacksmith called Hero. According to Andra's suggestion, Roboto converted the entire castle tower into a forge, which will hopefully give them the heat needed to consolidate the sword once again. Prince Adam introduces Teela to people who was formerly chosen as He-Man before he was, and that was how the episode ended. If you want me to continue this show, please let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe for more animation recaps.
And that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to smash that like button. Subscribe for more awesome content from Cartoon Crunch. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of the show was, or if there's a cartoon you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and until next time.